Zabadaracco, and this is Bridge Prep. Annie Warshaw is the CEO and founder of Smarty Pants Yoga, a Chicago-based organization that brings yoga, storytelling, and mentoring into local schools with the mission of empowering young girls. A Teach for America alumna, Annie is a former humanities instructor at Chicago's Perspectives Leadership Academy, and in 2013 was named Teacher of the Year by the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Annie serves on the boards of numerous women-focused organizations, including the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation and the Chicago Foundation for Women. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you so much for having me this wonderful afternoon.
So you're the CEO and founder of Smarty Pants Yoga, which connects social emotional learning and yoga through storytelling. I'm wondering if you could break that down for us. What is social emotional learning, and how do yoga and storytelling come into play there?
Yeah, so social emotional learning is something that has really invaded the school space. So basically it's not we're just trying to teach children how to do math, but we're trying to teach them how to be emotionally literate, how to be able to navigate their classrooms, their communities, do so by talking about their feelings, expressing themselves so that they can really tackle the different issues that they face and do a really great job in their academics. So what Smarty Pants Yoga does is empower girls so that they can be socially literate through yoga and reading. We have 110 original proprietary storybooks that we have written that are about girls that go through trials and tribulations first through fifth grade, and we pair those stories with yoga. So those books are used as a platform to discuss what's going on in their lives and how to deal with those issues in a really healthy, productive way. Once we're done reading, we do a yoga sequence that also gives girls tools to be able to deal with those same situations, but through physical movement. So knowing when to take a deep breath, or what it feels like to take up physical space and explore what those physical movements feel like. And then we cap off those two pieces with an activity that kind of ties everything in together. So really looking at the whole of the child and thinking about what is best for her to thrive as a leader within her classroom and community, and what tools she's going to need to access that elevation.
Got it. And now, did these stay in the classroom, or is there any sort of performance element?
So every girl receives a book after class. So we read the book together in class, and then she takes it home. We follow up with the parents with a personalized email that explains everything that happened in class, just using the language that we used with the girls, and then additional tools and resources so that they can continue the conversation. Because we see what we do is incredibly important, and it shouldn't be confined to an hour after school. Rather, it takes an entire community to really empower a girl. And so we want the girls engaging with the text outside of class, as well as the parents working alongside the girls to engage with the text.
Absolutely. Now, what inspired you to create Smarty Pants Yoga?
My background is in advocacy, specifically around women and girls. So throughout my college career post-grad, I worked as an organizer, and then I joined Teach for America. And while I was in Teach for America, I taught second grade. And I realized that the work that I was doing to empower women was really important, but we could be doing so much more preventative work. And as a second grade teacher, I was alarmed by the things that I was hearing within my classroom, and realized that the issues women faced became ingrained in them so incredibly early. So my own yoga practice, my experience in the classroom led me to think about how yoga felt great for me and what we could do to empower the girls that I was directly teaching. So that was where the initial idea came from. I had the opportunity to then move into a high school setting and teach business to high school students, and realized I needed to practice what I was preaching and use the business plan that my kids were working on to create the actual company.
Now, right there, the actual process of launching, what did you prioritize at the outset?
I think the first thing I knew deep down inside is that I have limitations. My background, like I said, is not in business. I have 2 degrees in women's history. And so surrounding myself with incredibly smart people, I think, was my first priority. I initially was going to set this up as a nonprofit. So my first thought was, who do I need on my board? Quickly realized I could do exactly what I wanted to do through a social enterprise. And one of the people that I had approached to be on my board is now my business partner, Jill Carey. Jill and I worked together as second grade teachers. She's also a Teach for America alum. And Jill has an amazing skill set that I know that I will never possess. And so I knew I needed her on my side. So she was the first person I prioritized. And proposed to her essentially with a business plan and asked her to come alongside me in this journey. And so once Jill came on board, we were able to just really think through what do we need to do to move to that next step. I had the business plan. I had a general idea of who we needed to talk to. And once we kind of solidified what we wanted the class to look like, I just kind of started talking to everybody ever, even though I had no product yet. And that's kind of how things unfolded from there. I wish I could say it was this like beautiful step-by-step process, but it was really once I approached Jill, once we solidified the vision, everything just kind of fell into place.
But it really started with getting the right people on the proverbial bus.
Yes.
Now, as you look back on the initial launch, is there anything you would have done differently?
Honestly, the launch just went in a way that we never anticipated. So one principal heard about us, said, I'm going to take a chance on you. And as a result of that, we started in fall 2013 in 8 schools, whereas my initial mindset is like, we're going to try for 1 school in fall 2013. So I could not have asked for a better launch ever. But I do have to say, Jill and I laugh about this a lot. When we first started, we had an understanding of what we wanted to achieve. We knew we wanted to help girls, and we knew yoga was important, but we truly didn't understand what that meant, and we didn't understand the power of our books. Now we understand that our girls truly connect to our main character, Dottie, and Dottie has an important role to play in our girls' lives, and we didn't play that up from the beginning. So now, as we think about moving forward in terms of our marketing, in terms of what the books look like, in terms about how explicit we want to be in the messaging of our books, we've really been much more intentional about the messages that we're giving to our girls. Whereas at the beginning we had an idea, but we kind of didn't. So if I could go back 2 years or 2.5 years and say, tell myself, hey, this is what girls need to know, and this is the language that they're going to use, and it's okay to be super straightforward about your agenda, things would look quite different. That would have saved me a lot of time.
And so fast forwarding the 2 years, you're now managing a staff of 29 employees, and you're also in charge of finances and bookkeeping and invoices. I'm wondering, what would you say is a key to managing all of these responsibilities simultaneously?
One of, I would say, my greatest strengths is my ability to effectively manage time. That's what allowed me to be a really awesome teacher, and that's what has allowed us to grow in the way that we have. And I also have Jill, who's incredibly wonderful at managing her time as well. So I would say that's the biggest thing, knowing what to prioritize when. So I never take a phone call, for example, when I am sitting in my house. If I am on the phone with you, I am either walking my dog or I am driving to a location, because otherwise I see it as a waste of my time. So really thinking about how to use every minute of my day strategically so that I can have a happy and healthy marriage, so that I can go to the gym and see my friends, be happy in my personal life so that I can really perform at my best during work time.
Got it. Now, you're currently in the midst of developing a strategy for scalability. Where would you like to take Smarty Pants in the next year, or maybe even the next 5 years? And what are the biggest challenges you're facing as you determine how best to proceed?
So this is the great question that wears on me. So we have this vision that we want to become a national brand, right? So we want girls in all different states to have access to our programming. In addition to having access to our actual services, we want them to have access to our content, because we realize not every girl might be able to be in our class, but they should have the opportunity to see female characters that represent who they are. In children's literature, for every 3 male protagonists, there's only 1 female protagonist. So the way we want to remedy this is really build out our merchandising brand. So that's one piece in addition to growing our services. So currently we're seeking out our second location. We're in the process of doing our market research. And once we do that, we need to identify a leader within that community, which all makes a lot of sense. And I know how to do this because we've done it here, but like actually getting that done while running the Chicago branch has been really challenging. And I would also say, like, really thinking strategically about who is this person going to be to start the next location, because we're not going to be physically by them. We need someone who's incredibly strong, who's an anchor in the community. And I think that is something that's really daunting to me, finding that fit, because we want this to be done well in our first effort. So I would say that one of the biggest challenges right now, moving that truck kind of forward, we're in an accelerator program that's helping us figure out how to navigate that path, who we need to know, what tools we need. And so I'm a little less nervous about it. I'm really excited about it because I do have the tools now to do it. It's just kind of like getting the ball moving while school's ending and we're getting camps launched and all that jazz.
Sure. Now, as you're learning how best to scale, are there any resources such as publications or thought leaders that you've leaned on, as you're really learning everything about scalability?
Yeah, I would say my initial conversations about scalability really started with my mentors. Like I said, I realized my deficit. So one of the things I'm really strategic about is surrounding myself with smart people who know what they're doing. And so having lunches all the time with people that I've now call my dear friends and asking them, what does this look like? What are your experiences with companies, et cetera? So I have friends who are in VC and so forth, and talking about what do they see as the problems. So that's how I even started thinking about scaling. But now that Jill and I are at the place where we're actually doing it, joining an accelerator was something we were really purposeful about. And we've looked at a number of different accelerators, and we finally found one that we felt really fit our needs. So we're in the cohort for the Points of Light Civic Accelerator, and they are specifically focused on scalability. So half of the cohort might just be starting. I would say a good number of the cohort is exactly where we are. They've launched, they've market tested, proven themselves, and now are moving on to a next location or coming out with a new product. So because we're in this accelerator, we have this built-in community of resources readily available to us. One of the resources they offered us that I found incredibly helpful came from this company called Smallify. And we did this fabulous exercise where we had to state all of our problems. Then someone in our cohort had to solve all of our problems for us. Then they had to solve it for us with the hat on of someone else. So we had to write down names of famous people. So if Britney Spears was solving this problem, how would she do it? If Obama was solving this problem, how would he do it? And so bringing that new perspective was incredibly helpful. So the Smallify approach was super helpful. Business canvassing, super helpful. I would say joining an accelerator or a community, incredibly helpful. And then in terms of just like personal thinking about leadership, I read a lot of feminist texts on what lady leaders need to do to be heard and how to find the strength within themselves to lead organizations in a sometimes combative community. Although I would say in Chicago, it's a pretty welcoming, amazing community of women leaders. So I feel super lucky about that.
Got it. Now, we just have time for one more question. I wanted to briefly touch on what you have learned from the participants of Smarty Pants Yoga. No doubt they've learned a great deal from you, but I'm wondering how what the learning process has been like on your end.
I would much rather hang out with kids every day versus adults, because kids are so amazing at just being honest and frank and being open and being vulnerable and unapologetic about it, especially when you're giving them a space that you specifically say, like, guess what, we're not going to tell mom and dad if you tell us, like, the time you lied, because that was what the book is about or something like that. So I think that vulnerability is absolutely amazing, and I really admire it amongst our girls. I also love that in friendship spaces, like, you can be really mad at each other and then come to a very mutual understanding very quickly and move on if given the tools. And I really admire that about our girls. Like, they realize when maybe they weren't being super nice, and will quickly find a solution so that they can be friends again. And I think if everyone had that mindset, we would have much kinder workspaces. Women would be more supportive of one another. Men would be more supportive of women gaining positions of power. It would just look like a much more fabulous world. So I really adore that about our girls.
Great. Well, Amy, I want to thank you so much for speaking us with today, and we wish you the best of luck with your scalability.
Thank you so much. If you know any smart people across the country who are looking to lead something new, they can definitely get in touch.
You got it. All right. Thank you so much.